Hey guys, this is No Chin Deluxe. I'm going to do a little video here just showing some basics of approach shots and also putting. There's been a little confusion on the forums, and I thought it'd be easier if some of you could maybe see it visually rather than having all the long explanations behind it. So I'm here at Pinehurst number 2 on hole number 2. I have myself set up for a nice little approach shot here. Around 126, which is pretty much middle of the road. A nice little sand wedge shot, which pretty common shot you'll see a lot of times. Here's how I'm going to set this up. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the pin right on the top of my aiming circle. The reason I do this is because when you hit shots, they tend to bounce close to the bottom of the aiming circle and then roll up to the top if you have a 100% shot. So I like to just aim for the top of the circle to begin with, because that's the most natural place for your ball to land if there are no wind effects or elevation changes or anything. So that's a good place to start. Also, it's easy to just stick the pin kind of right between those two white lines rather than trying to line it up in the middle of the circle. So I just kind of like that approach better. The first thing I like to do is adjust for elevation change. I generally adjust in a ratio of 1:1 for elevation change to yards, extra yardages. So for every 1 foot uphill, I'll add 1 yard of distance to my shot, and it'll be the reverse for downhill, so I'll subtract distance. And I'll do that up to a maximum of 10 feet. So if the shot is uphill something like 17 feet, I won't go up to I won't add 17 yards. I'll only add a max of 10 to my yardages. So for this one, it's pretty easy. It's only up 1 foot. So the very first thing I'm going to do here is just add 1 foot of distance to my yardage. Go up to 123, and that's it. That's how we adjust for the elevation change, which isn't much, as you can see. The next thing I'm going to look at is the wind. I also use a 1:1 ratio for miles per hour in tailwind and headwinds to yardage adjustments. So for every mile per hour of headwind we have coming against us, we would add 1 yard of distance to our shot, and it'd be the reverse for a tailwind. Now the tricky thing about wind, though, is that the wind isn't always blowing straight at you or straight behind you. So you have to kind of scale the wind effect based on the direction. Here it's pointing right in the corner, which would be pretty much half of the effect. If it was pointing straight down, that would be a complete headwind. We'd take 6 yards of distance and add that to our shot. If it was a complete crosswind, there would actually be no effect there because it's not blowing against us or behind us. So there would be no effect there. But since it's halfway between, we're actually going to only take half of this distance, which is going to be 3. So what I'm going to do here is automatically add 3 more yards to my shot. So we'll go up to 126. Alright, next thing I look at is what club I'm using. This doesn't matter for some clubs, but I know that my sand wedge tends to come up a little bit short just because when it's such a high lofted club that when the ball lands it wants to roll backwards, and I'm going to actually lose distance once the ball lands. So I tend to just add 5 percentage points to my shot right off the bat, because I know that effect is coming, and I know that it's most likely going to roll backwards, especially with a headwind and an uphill approach. So those are 2 things that are going to really make it want to roll backwards once it hits the ground. So next thing we need to do is add loft. We want to be able to hit a 100% shot. We don't want to have to try to hit a 92% shot. So we're going to basically add 8 clicks of loft to make up for the 8% that we're taking off of 100. 1 click of loft by holding B and tapping left on the control pad will take off 1% of power, usually, approximately. So since we're trying to get down to 92, I'm just going to click in 8 points of loft here. And that should take us down to 92, and now we're just going to take a full swing and hopefully end up with a close shot here. So let's see what happens here. Alright, we got the heartbeat coming, so obviously did something right. Gonna be close. Alright, it's a decent shot. You'll kind of get mixed results with this, but usually you're going to be within 10 feet, and sometimes you will hole out. I think this is a pretty good result for that, and we should have a pretty easy tap in here. Just going to bring this down a little bit. And there you go. You can see how using this system would really be advantageous in the pro tourneys, because you might not have a putt meter or something, so you really want to take putting out of the equation whenever possible. So it's great for doing those kinds of tournaments.
This short par 4.
All right, what we're going to do for this hole is I'm just going to set up a putt for us so we can talk about uphill putts. So I'm just going to smack one out here. And then I'm just going to shoot a nice little pitch shot or something just to the middle of the green, just so we can have something to work with here. Thinking something down here would probably be good. All right, I think that'll work. Okay, great. We have an uphill putt, 8.4 inches uphill. Now, what I've been talking about online of adjusting to grid distances is you can see these boxes in the grid. The distance between these lines really doesn't matter, but I just know that to adjust my distance marker, the distance of one of these grid lines or grid boxes is equal to 1 foot of uphill. So if this were to be 1 foot of uphill for the putt, then I'd actually change this distance marker to be, I'd actually move it back 1 grid box in length. So we're going to go back the length of one of these grid boxes. So if I were going to hit this 1 foot uphill, I'd probably do that. Notice that we're just basically mirroring the whole location in the next box up. We're moving 1 box up. And that would give us the perfect distance for a 1 foot uphill approach here. But since we're obviously not going 1 foot, sorry, we only have 8.4 inches to worry about, so that's only about 2/3 of the way. So we just need to do 2/3 of a box. So maybe if we split this up into thirds, you know, it'd probably be about somewhere in this area if we were going to go from here to there. So I'm going to say if this is a full box, I'm going to say that 2/3 is probably going to be, let's see, maybe around here. I think a 60% shot would probably be pretty good for this. Let's go ahead and check it on our putt preview and see how we went here. All right, you can see that my distance is pretty much spot on. It's actually a little short, and I tend to want to aim a little bit short because it's so much easier to just add 1 or 2 percentage points than to try to guess of how much to take off because you overshot the cup. So if anything, I always want to come up a tad bit short, and here this is the perfect result. I mean, I didn't adjust for the break nearly enough, but I think we'll be able to fix this. So the way I'm going to adjust for this is we ended up to the left, so I'm just going to adjust a little bit to the right, and then add just maybe a couple percentage points, and I think that's going to do it for us. Let's see if we can make this. Might not be enough to get there. Oh, nailed it. Awesome. So there you go. That's a pretty, once you get the distances right, you can get a really good lag putt, and you'll have a really successful time putting, and that's huge when you're playing online. I mean, putting is pretty much everything in my eyes. So
this
for this next hole, what I'm going to do is just going to set up another shot. I'm going to have a nice little downhill putt for us. Now for the downhill putts, instead of going back 1 grid box, I actually go back 1.5 grid boxes for every foot of downhill lie. I'm just going to overshoot this so we can get kind of in the back there. See if we can get a nice little downhill putt working here. 45 feet, this is going to be a bear. All right, great. 2 feet of downhill. So remember, we're going back 1.5 grid boxes for every 1 foot downhill. So what's 1 1/2 plus 1 1/2? That's 3 whole grid boxes, right? So to get downhill 2 feet, we're going to go back 3 grid boxes, and this should get us somewhere close. On these longer putts, it sometimes doesn't work as well, but it should be pretty good, I think. So let's check our putt preview. All right, look, we actually have our distance kind of came up a little bit short, which is exactly what we want. So this is perfect. We're just going to go ahead and add a couple percentage points, and we're going to adjust for the break. And I think we should be able to sink this. I think that'll do it. As long as we're on target. Oh, drifting to the right. Go. Oh, that's brutal. You can see we had the perfect distance, so that's all we really need. So anyway, that's kind of the way I approach both approach shots and putting. So if you have any more questions, go ahead and ask. And otherwise, hope this helped.